And what are some ways? I always love those tangible takeaways as you do this a lot in your business, in what you do, stepping in to help companies, independent. We say independently, interim fractional based. You become part of their team and help them
Yeah.
figure
Yeah.
that out. What are some ways that you help them instill? Here's how we can take these individual titles or
Mhm.
individuals and make them into a team and give them a goal. I've got a friend who's going through this right now where she's got a bunch of individuals, none of which like working together.
Yeah.
Do what you do best. Give them a goal, help them get some teams together and help them compete. It's like, well, where do I start? I'm like, well, that's why I've got a network of experts who know a whole lot more than I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where do you help them start in building that team? Because I know you talk a lot about collaboration and
Mhm.
intentionality. We'll
Mhm.
get into
Mhm.
that. How do you start if your organization is not used to operating that way? We know it is most successful companies I know operate in that
Mhm.
team, and especially having the teams compete with each other. We
Mhm.
love
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Where do you start?
Oh my gosh, Kristen, isn't this it's a great question. I think at the end of the day, you start with this is going to sound so generic, but just bear with me. We got to start with understanding like a quick needs assessment of the organization, like what's going on in the organization. And I believe the best way to do this is to have someone from the outside come and just almost like pull off the duvet cover of your bed and see really what's going like are your sheets really made, are they dirty, what's going on under your bed, right? And so I would do a quick needs assessment, and if you don't have the time or the money to hire someone externally, the first thing I would have an executive do is look at their direct management team and say, do those managers have the skills that it takes to manage people? Because what I see all the time is we have really awesome individual contributors that have been in a company for X amount of time and they get promoted to be a manager and they don't understand the shift that it takes from going from an individual contributor from doing the work to all of a sudden being a manager where you're delegating, motivating, and inspiring. So if I could do one thing in an organization, pull back that cover of the duvet and ask yourself, does every manager that's managing people have the skills, capability, and support needed to be an effective manager? I think that's where I would start. The second thing I would do is I would look at the individual contributors. You know, you talked about the colleague that you have that's like, yeah, we need to work together as a team, but there's a lot of competition. And I think whenever I hear there's too much competition, there's an underlying fear. What's going on in the organization that makes me believe I need to compete with my client? What am I fearful of? Am I trying to prove myself? Am I having imposter syndrome? Do I not feel like I have the tools to be successful? Healthy competition, I think, can be great. But often when I hear there's this culture of competition, it's usually coming from an unproductive space where I'm trying to hide something or prove something. And then it goes back to the skill set. What skill gap do we have in the organization that we might need to fill so that we can be collaborative rather than competitive, if that makes sense?